Hey folks, I will just give it a minute or so and then I'll get going properly. Whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching it on the replay, I hope you're well. And I'll wait until the clock ticks over and it's actually 11 o'clock and I know that people are here and so on, and then I will kick into what we're actually going to be talking about today. Hope you're having a good networking week. Remember that you can always hit me up with questions or just general advice about networking during the duration of the Networking Success Program. I'd love to chat to you. Would love to be able to help you as best I can. Let's remember the things that I ought to do. Let's make sure that the chat is switched on. In Zoom webinars, the chat is switched off by default, so I have to remember to switch it on every time. There's probably a default setting that I haven't got to yet. Any questions, pop them in the chat or pop them in the Q&A. This is the boring bit, and it's the really important bit as well. And I think because it's the boring bit, a lot of people don't do it. Let me explain what I mean, right? When people come to me and ask about how to get better at networking, they always mean the 60 or 40-second introduction. People think that that's what it is. Sometimes they want to know about follow-up, but most of the time they want to talk about the 60 or 40-second introduction. And that's important. We're going to cover it this time next week, actually. And that's probably the longest of the sessions in the whole Networking Success Program. But it's important, but it's not the most important thing, which is sort of good news, because people get really het up about the 60 or 40-second introduction. And actually, that's not the most important part of networking. So networking is a number of things, and one of the things that's been really, really important to me over the years is the systems and processes which I've built around networking. Some of which I've invented myself along the way, some of which have come from advice from other people and books and that sort of thing, and all of which I'm going to share with you this morning. Because there's bits that people get fundamentally wrong. And it's not often that I tell people that they're getting things wrong, but this is one of those places and one of those times when I do. So when I talk about the networking toolkit, this isn't like a load of stuff that you can take along to a networking event, which will magically get people buying from you. I wish that that existed. But this is all of the stuff, all of the strategies, all of the processes, the apps that I've used in the background to make everything work. And it means thinking about networking in a slightly different way. The very first thing that I'll talk about this morning, from experience, by the way, this session is 30 to 40 minutes, that sort of length. So I hope you've got a cup of tea. I have. That's about the sort of length this lasts. Sometimes depends on what questions I get, because I'll answer them live, but that's the sort of length of this one. So the first thing is how we treat networking events, which is important and which is something that people often don't think about. I first noticed this when I was a BNI member in 2006, and at the end of the meeting, people would sort of march off. And it's interesting, right? Because so many of us are self-employed and don't actually have to be anywhere, or at the very least are in control of our diary, that it surprised me that people were just going off at the end. More so when I joined For Networking, because of the structure of For Networking meetings, it really amazed me that people, when the meeting finished at 10, were just leaving. So I worked out a different way. A couple of things fed into this. One of the first things is that quite a long time ago, I read a book called How to Do Everything and Be Happy. A little bit later on, I will send you a resources list, and it's got links to all of the software that I talk about this morning, all of the books that I talk about this morning. But in the book, How to Do Everything and Be Happy, Peter Jones talks about using your diary. Going to screen share quite a lot this morning, which is why I'm looking down at the screen. But you will find that if we have a look at my diary, sharing everything live, so you see the whole of my life. Couple of things that you will probably spot, but I'll explain anyway. First thing is that my diary has everything in it. We went to see Dirty Dancing at the theatre in Oxford last night. My social stuff goes in the same diary as my business stuff. I only have the same 24 hours as anyone else. I don't have a separate social diary and business diary. That would make no sense to me. So things like my social stuff go into the same diary as my business stuff, so I don't trip over, I don't get things wrong. I don't book business meetings when actually I'm meant to be doing something with Sharon. So I only use one diary, and I put everything in there. All of my one-to-ones this week have been in there. Speaking retreat, which I ran yesterday, networking success program. I've got admin time after this for the next few hours until I run my networking group at 3 o'clock. It's that time in a month, invoices and that type of thing to send out. So the first thing is I have one diary, and everything goes in my diary. You'll also notice some of the entries in here. For those of you who know me, I'm married to Sharon. We also share diaries, so I can see Sharon's diary all the time as well, to make sure that we don't double book. Love electronic diaries. The second thing is I put traveling time into my diary. Didn't used to trip myself up. So if we book to go anywhere, the other thing that I put into my diary is the traveling time, the time that it's going to take to get there. I use Waze. Don't know how many of you use Waze. I use Waze on my phone. Let's get Waze on my phone. There's Waze on my phone, which I use as a sat nav. But if I'm planning a trip anywhere, tap it into Waze. It gives me the approximate time. I put that in my diary so that I'm not, if I'm going to a networking event, I'm not rushing out the door at the very last minute. So everything goes into the same diary. I happen to use Google Calendar, but everything goes in there. Another benefit of booking traveling time into my diary, by the way, is that I have a system where people, clients can book directly into my diary. People can book half-hour slots with me at any time. If I don't put the traveling time in, then Google Calendar is clever, but it won't know. And that's tripped me up on a couple of occasions, by the way, when I've had a meeting in Swindon, Cheltenham, Newcastle, and it's in my diary, but people have been able to book in the time when I'm going to be on a train or whatever it happens to be. Traveling time goes in the diary. The second thing is, third thing, if a networking event starts at a particular time, I aim to be there half an hour before it starts, and I book my diary for half an hour after it finishes as well. Let me explain a couple of reasons why. This is part of the systems that I've always had in place. If I get to a networking event early, well, if there's a problem with the parking, if I'm going somewhere unfamiliar, then I can sort that out. I'm not rushing. If there is, any problems finding it or anything like that, I've given myself enough time in hand. Getting there early also means that I arrive unflustered. I've seen so many people, networking events that start at 8 a.m. or 6 p.m, whatever it happens to be. So many people rush in at 5 past. If I get there early, I can make sure I choose a seat, which suits me, work out where I'm going to sit for breakfast or whatever. Particularly, I'm speaking at these events. I'm speaking at an event in Cheltenham in September. I'm going to get there early so I can work out where I'm sitting, where I'm going to be speaking from, and so on. It also means that I've got half an hour extra at the beginning of the meeting to grab myself a cup of tea and to chat to people who are arriving, to start building those connections before the formal part of the networking meeting starts. I absolutely promise you that so many of my really big business, every big opportunity starts with a cup of tea. A load of my really big opportunities have started with those informal chats and those informal one-to-ones before the meeting. It means that I'm arriving unflustered. It means that I'm arriving with plenty of time to chat to people as they arrive. And if it's a networking event that I'm familiar with, I'm arriving at a time where if someone's arriving for the first time, I can say, oh, have you been here before? Has anyone explained to you how it works? And I can be the first person who's helpful to them. There is a book as well. I can't remember what it's called, but if I'm at a networking meeting, whether or not I'm on the team, I will always be a host to the new people. I'll always look after new people, show them where the toilets are, show them where to get a cup of tea, explain to them if they have to do a 60 seconds. I've made a lot of friends over the years by being the first person who's helpful to people. So I get there early. The second thing that I do is I book half an hour at the end of the meeting. The reason for that is sometimes quite often, I do my 60 or 40 seconds and people are interested in what I've got to say. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but you'll hear this expression a few times during the program, the half-life of enthusiasm. If I do my 40 or 60 seconds and someone's interested in what I've got to say, they're interested in that moment. They have thought, when I've delivered my 60 seconds, they thought, oh, I really need help with my networking. I've been to 3 networking events this week. I haven't come away with anything. Really need to speak to that guy. 24 hours later, they'll have forgotten why they were interested to speak to me. The half-life of enthusiasm. So if I book time in my diary at the end of a networking meeting, it means that I've got time at the end to either have a chat with them, if they're still there, to say, great, should we grab a cup of coffee? Should we actually talk about that now? I can explain, I'll give you a bit of advice if you like, and maybe explain how I might be able to help. I've made sales in that half an hour where people have said, yeah, right, can you write me a 40 seconds before I did the networking success program, or, you know, when's the next networking success program? I don't understand why you would rush off when there are people there who might be interested in buying what you sell, and they might be interested in buying what you sell in that moment. The other thing that I can do at the end of a networking meeting is connect with and send follow-ups to the people who I've met along the way. I've got my phone there. I've usually got my iPad there as well. I can actually sit and do the follow-ups on the spot. I'm going to answer a really obvious question at this stage. Since the pandemic, I no longer carry business cards around. We stopped giving business cards to each other, didn't we, during that period? But I've never started again. If I am going to connect with someone after a networking meeting or follow up, I will connect with them on LinkedIn actually during the conversation. I will say, great, who are you on LinkedIn? And go and find them there and then and say, great, you've got a connection request then. And then at the end of the meeting, I'll send them a quick follow-up message. By the way that I usually send people follow-up messages is do voice notes. I do voice notes in LinkedIn. I do voice notes on WhatsApp. Anywhere else I happen to be, I'll usually follow up with a voice note. It's really quick. It's really personal, and people seem to really appreciate it. Haven't plugged the phone into the right place. Let me do that, and then I can show you how to send a voice note on LinkedIn, because I think that will be useful for you as well. So booking that time at the end of the networking session means that I can either chat with people, or I can sit there and do my follow-ups to people and get that done straight away. The half-life of enthusiasm turns out to be really important. Let's get my, gonna see if it will let me do this. And if it does, I'll share my iPhone screen. It's not letting me share yet, but I'll get there in a second. Or I won't get there in a second. I do all of this live. So just occasionally we get a technical issue, which I've now fixed. There we go. So if you don't know how to send a voice note in LinkedIn, I go into LinkedIn. We go to my messages. Let's go to, got a message from someone this morning. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can see, and I'll have to remember just to slide away and cancel this. You can see that there's a little microphone icon. If I tap on that, it gives me the option to actually it's recording what I'm saying right now, and if I don't swipe away, which I'll do, it would have sent that to Andy. So that's how you send voice messages to people. I very regularly send voice messages along to people to follow up with them afterwards, and then pop a link to my diary or a link to the Networking Success Program or whatever it happens to be. But I do my follow-ups as quickly as possible. We used to have exhibitor stands at things like the business show when I was running networking events at scale. When people would come along and we would offer them a free visit to our networking events, if we did it on the spot, they would probably come. And if we got them booked into a meeting there and then, if we phoned them like straight after the business show, they would probably come. If we phoned them 48 hours, they might come. If we phoned them a week later, they'd completely forgotten ever having the conversation with us. The half-life of enthusiasm. If people show even a tiny bit of interest in what you're doing, follow up with them, ideally there and then, or as quickly as possible as you possibly can straight after the meeting. Had a great tip from a friend of mine who was an authorized distributor with Utility Warehouse to Discount Club. He used to follow up with people straight after the meeting and remind them why they had said they might be interested. Hey Steve, you said you wanted to save for a holiday, and I said we might be able to help with that. Shall we get that call in? I'll explain exactly how that works, and we might be able to save you some money and actually make you a little bit as well. Remind people why they were interested. Hey, Joe, I'm trying to think of random names here. You said you were struggling with your 60 seconds. Look, I do this thing called the Networking Success Program. I mentioned it earlier on. During that, will really help you get your 60 seconds right. And as a bonus, you'll learn a ton of other stuff as well. Here's where to book. Remind people why they were interested in what you're selling, in what you've got to offer. It's creating the time to do this stuff. We don't have to run off at the end of meetings. We don't have to go anywhere. If someone does give me a business card, by the way, I will pop it straight into my CRM system. And if I've met someone and communicated with them on LinkedIn or just connected with them generally, I will also put them into my CRM system. CRM is customer relationship management or contact relationship management. If you are doing the Networking Success Program, you are in my CRM system. You've actually entered your own details. If you've done the speaking retreat, you're in there. I use a particular system to tie everything up because, and I'll screen share it in a minute, but let me just explain my logic behind this. What's also always important to me is what's the next step? What have I promised to do for someone? So if I meet them at a networking event and they say, oh, I'm not digging social media at all, I don't understand, I will usually say, look, I'll tell you what turned my head. A 2008 video, actually 15 years old now, from a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, which explained why I should take social media seriously. Let me send it to you afterwards. I will make myself a task in my CRM to remember to do that. Or if I said to them, hey, I'll send you a link to book into my diary, if they're not carrying everyone carries their diary in 2023, surely. Mine's in my phone as well as on my laptop and so on. But if someone's not carrying their diary and I've promised to send them a link to my diary, I will send them that link straight away. You can share your diary now using Google Calendar. I use my CRM system to share my diary, which works really well for me, because if people book in, it also adds their contact details directly into my CRM. But if I've met someone and they've given me a business card, I have one right here, which someone gave me quite recently. Or if I've connected with someone on LinkedIn and I've got some of their contact information, then I will add that to the CRM system. Let me explain just how that works, by the way. When you contact and connect with someone on LinkedIn, let's just, I'm just looking at my LinkedIn screen before I come back to you, and I'm just going to find let's go to my contact details. But I'm going to get that up in front of me. Let's come back to you. I'm going to share my screen. Whenever you share a screen in Zoom, when you get the screen sharing thing up in front of you, it moves the boxes around every time, so I have to hunt for the right one. But there is my LinkedIn. On everyone's LinkedIn profile, there is a little link there to contact info. Now, if the people are sensible and they run their own business because they want people to buy from them, they will have filled in their contact info. I have need to update my Twitter handle. Actually, I've changed that. But people fill in their contact info. So a phone number, an email address, I can often harvest, I can often get from their LinkedIn connection details. Massive red flag warning here. Just because their email address is public, you cannot add them to your mailing list. Adding them to your CRM and adding them to your mailing list are two very different things. Even if your CRM is also your mail, your email, your bulk email provider, which mine is, there's a particular tick which I need to put in to say that people have given permission to go on my mailing list. I don't add people without their permission ever. It's such an easy way to piss people off, no other way to say it, but it's such an easy way to do that. But a lot of people will have their contact info out on their LinkedIn profile. Let's find, so the managing director of a company that I do a lot of work for, pretty sure he's got some out there. Yeah, he's got his email address there. I found that sort of thing really useful in the past, by the way. If someone's approached me for speaking or anything like that, I immediately go and see what publicly available contact info there is out there for them. If it's their direct email address, or sometimes their direct dial phone number, I'll make sure I've got that straight away. The second thing that I do, let's get this up in front of me and just copy that link for now so that I've got it to send to you. The CRM system that I use is called Gold Star Pro. That's a link to a free trial of it. I'll email that as part of the resource kit that I send out to you anyway. If you've signed up for a one-to-one with me or signed up for the Networking Success Program, you've filled in a form which I created in Gold Star Pro, which adds you to my CRM as well, so that I can keep in touch with you and have a record of your contact details. But if I come out of a networking event and I've got someone's business card, the first thing that I'll do is go into Gold Star Pro. This is the homepage. Gold Star Pro is the CRM which I use, contact relationship management. It also replaces MailChimp for me, so I no longer need to pay for MailChimp. I send all of my emails from here. And it also replaces Calendly for me so that people can book straight into my diary, for example. And every time someone does any of those things, it also means that people can pay for the Networking Success Program because the forms link up to my PayPal and my Stripe. Just works really well for me, enables me to create mini websites as well. But we're going to talk this morning. I was using HubSpot before and then started using this. Gives you an idea of the sort of functionality. The most important bit is the contacts list. I'm doing this live, so you'll get an actual live list of contacts up here. So the very first thing which I do at the end of a networking event is I come in and add people's details as a new contact. So simply add their information in here, their name, their email, their phone numbers, and so on and so forth, and save that away. And then the next thing which I do, let's go into Tamar, because I'm in touch with Tamar at the moment. The next thing which I do, I need to move some boxes around so that you can see it, is that I will create a new task, a to-do, for want of a better word, so that what I've promised to do will actually get done, because Gold Star Pro will remind me of it until I've actually done it. So if that is that I've promised to send an email to someone, let's add a time, email Tamar before our 1-to-1. remind her of Connect, so to assign it to me. You'll see most CRMs do this, by the way. I use Gold Star Pro because it does a lot of things as well as a CRM. But if Sharon, my wife, works in the business with me, if this is a task for Sharon to do, I can assign it to Sharon so it reminds her. We do actually talk. I would phone her and say, oh, could you get in touch with Tamar? But putting it in here acts as a useful reminder as well. Trust me, I don't just put stuff in here and expect Sharon to do it. We don't have that sort of relationship. I can set a time when it needs to be done by. So actually, I've got a meeting with Tamar, I think, on Wednesday of next week. So let's put that in for Tuesday. There we go. And it'll remind me on Tuesday that I need to do that. And then when I tick it off, it'll remind me that I've done it. And all the way through, with any contacts that I've got, let's get back into Tamar and get me clicking ahead of myself. If I go into any contact, let's choose one that there is actually some activity for. I've got over here on the right hand side where my cursor is, I've got a complete list of my activity with that contact, the emails that I've sent them, and because of the way that this works, if they've joined Connect or if they've bought the Networking Success Program, it handles that for me and tells me when I've done it. Someone's booked a one-to-one with me. Aaron has done that. All of this stuff goes straight in there. What that means for me, let's stop the share and come back to where I'm talking to you. It means a number of things for me, right? It means that I don't forget things. The other things which I do, which I'm not going to show you live. I should get a mock-up screen grab of this, but just because there's lots of financial information in the live version of it, is that I record opportunities in my CRM. So an opportunity is someone has mentioned joining Connect. That's up there. I put that into my CRM. Someone has asked me if I want to speak at their event. That's an opportunity. Someone has said that they want to come to the speaking retreat and are thinking about it. It's an opportunity. I record every opportunity of every person. So someone has said this morning that they want to come to the speaking retreat in either August or September. I will record that as an opportunity as soon as we come off of this call, because I forget stuff. 53 years old, busy life, 5 kids. We forget stuff every so often. If I record everything, there's much less chance of it getting forgotten. There's much less chance of it getting missed. One of the things that I do with my one-to-one coaching clients is that I always go through a weekly audit with them, and I'll share this with you. The weekly audit, and this is why recording the information, having the diary, having the CRM, this is why this is also important. On my weekly audit, I go into my list of opportunities. And it's like, oh, what happened to Ollie Duffy? He said he was going to book onto the speaking retreat. I've not seen that happen yet. Do I need to follow up with him? Oh, that guy was meant to be emailing me with details of a speaking engagement that I might be interested in. That was 10 days ago and I've not heard from him. Do I need to do something about it? So I audit by looking at the stuff that I would otherwise forget. My list of opportunities. Oh, okay. Yeah, I had forgotten that one. I need to follow up with them. If I go through it every week and have that as part of my working week, I forget less. I follow up more. I don't miss opportunities. The other thing that I go through with my clients, and I'll share with you exactly what we do, is we go back through the diary and think, okay, so I was at Cotswold Networking in Cheltenham. Who did I chat to? Oh, God, right. I remember now. Yeah, the guy who was there just before the meeting, Steve, I was chatting to him. If we remember to enter all of the information of all of the stuff that we've done, if we remember to keep records of everything, and if we remember then to do a weekly audit of everything, we tend to forget less. And it certainly works for me. And certainly when I've worked with clients, plenty of clients, we've had those light bulb moments where, oh, right, that guy wanted my free ebook. And then the guy with the free ebook has booked a coaching call with them. There's one more system, which I want to explain. And this comes back from the 1980s. And the system that I use is called a daybook. So in the olden days, I used to have a daybook where back in the 1980s, I would have a book and everything that I had to do would get written in the book. These days, my to-dos are electronic, but my daybook still exists on my desk. I have it as an actual physical book rather than an electronic, because when I'm in Zoom meetings with people, I prefer to write stuff than be tapping away whilst I'm chatting to them. That might just be a personal thing, but as long as you've got a system which works for you. And this is one of the ways where I try not to forget anything, or to be accurate. I forget much less than I would forget if I didn't have the system in place, if that makes any sense. What we used to do when I was working in estate agents' offices, on one side of the book, we would have our to-dos. And then on the other side of the book, we would write down the incoming stuff, some of which would turn into to-dos. These days, for me, all I write down here is the incoming stuff. There's my notes from a couple of days ago. I write incoming stuff. When I'm having Zooms with people, if I'm in one of my networking sessions and someone says, oh, we've been meaning to do this, I make a note of it, because then at the end of every day, I did read and invest in the GTD system, getting things done a few years ago. One of the ways that I help myself to sleep at night is by getting everything out of my head and into a system, so that I know that things are in systems. So I'm not waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning and thinking, I need to do this. I try. I'm not 100% perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a lot closer to being systemized than I was 10 and 15 years ago. But this system comes from the 1980s. Anything that comes in during the day gets written down. Oh, I spoke to Samantha. She's interested in the Networking Success Program. It gets written down. Then it gets transferred into an electronic system. I write stuff down on the go. If I'm on the phone, if I'm in a Zoom meeting with people, if it's a action point for me, I put an asterisk in the margin, effectively right to the left of it, so that at the end of the day, I can look through and think, okay, have I done it? In which case, cross it out. Does anyone else put stuff on their to-do list that they've actually already done, but you put it onto your to-do list just so that you can cross it off and get the satisfaction? Maybe that's just me. I know it's not just me, actually. But if it's been done, I cross it off. If it hasn't been done, it gets put into a system. It gets put into a system somewhere, usually Gold Star Pro these days. So I've got a to-do list, because most actions are linked to a person or an organization or something like that. So it can go into Gold Star Pro as tasks, as notes, whatever it happens to be. I write everything down. I commit everything to a system somewhere so that things don't get forgotten. By the way, what you're getting is the result of years and years of doing this, getting it wrong, getting it right, trying certain things, working out what works for me. I've used various to-do systems before. I still do use things like Evernote and Todoist. I have my emails, for example, are all in Google, so I can get them on any device. I use Google Mail. I have a couple of plugins on my email as well, so I can do things like take an email and turn it straight into a to-do. Take an email and put it straight into an Evernote. I use Evernote to write everything down. I wrote my books on Evernote, for example, so I've got a complete and forever record of them. I scan people's business cards using Evernote as well. So as well as in my CRM, I've got a photo of their business card, and it's clever enough these days that it reads the text in a photo, so I can search for things. I'll send you a link to Evernote as well, because I commit everything to email. I commit everything to Evernote. I commit everything to Gold Star Pro. so that I don't have to remember stuff. I used to be a director of 4Networking Limited. We ran 5,000 networking events a year. The managing director, until very recently, would phone me and say, do you remember that guy, Steph? He came along in 2010 and he came along to Cheltenham, and, you know, this happened or that happened. And I would be able to search through my electronic records and find that guy, or find the email conversation that we had with them, or find why it was, you know, running red flags or whatever it happens to be. I can also go back, because I've done this exercise this week with Sharon, go back over the last 4 years, find all of my speaking engagements that I've done over the last 4 years, so that we can write to everyone that I've spoken for in the past and say, hey, remember me? Here's my up-to-date show reel. What events have you got coming up this year? Do you fancy a chat? Having these systems in place means that I don't have to remember everything, means that I forget far less along the way, and means that my marketing, just think about this, and I'll share the crown jewels with you as well. You know, when I run events at the end of this year, I will be emailing people who've done the Networking Success Program this year. I will be emailing people who've done the speaking retreat this year. I've got all of these records in place to remind me that who those people are. I've got all of these systems in place to make that possible for me to do so. That makes my life a lot simpler. That means that more little conversations turn into big opportunities. And that's why I'm a fan of systems. People probably don't know that about me. People probably think it's flowery shirts and being out there at lots of networking events, but the systems, no matter what business you're in, if you're in UW, I know we've got Leanne in the room, I know we've got some other people watching on the replay. I believe you've still got a CRM that you can use as part of your UW business. So you probably don't need to invest in anything new, but I would strongly recommend that you use one. I would strongly recommend that you have a system there in place for the people who've shown a bit of interest. The time might not be right now, but if you keep in touch with them in the time, if you remember that little conversation, you've got more of a chance to turn it into a big opportunity. I sincerely hope that was useful. I will see you next Tuesday, where we will talk about how to find the right networking events for you, how to find the right people for you. I'll be giving you a load of ideas of where to find networking events that you've not heard of before, because I've devoted coming up for 20 years of my life to networking now. And I'm in touch with lots and lots of networking organizations, particularly around the UK and Australia, as it goes bizarrely. But I'll be giving you direct advice on where to find the right networking events for you. And on Thursday of next week, we'll do the bit about what to do at the networking event, including how to deliver your 40 or 60-second introduction. And we'll actually go some way to writing that with you as well. That all gets a bit exciting, and we make sure that we have some one-to-one interaction as well, where I directly help you with that. Hope that's been useful. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you Tuesday morning at 11 on the same Zoom link. And I'll put the replays up of these sessions from today and Tuesday this afternoon. And I'll speak to you folk real soon. Take care.